Call of Duty Infinite Warfare was the first Call of Duty game in years to actually catch my interest. Mostly because of the astronomically high amounts of dislikes on the reveal trailer, and because of mad curiosity. I suppose this game is living proof of the fact that any press is good press, because if the game wouldn't have attracted so much negativity and hatred, I'm not even sure I would have touched it, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we begin with this analysis, I want to briefly explain my relationship with the Call of Duty franchise. Strap yourselves in, this is gonna be a long video. I should also warn you that it won't be the most serious analysis in the world either. That's just not the way I roll. Back in 2010, I finally convinced my parents to let me get one of those violent war games, since all the cool kids were playing them. And I was ecstatic. That game was COD 4, and I adored it. The campaign was unforgettable, and the multiplayer was tons of fun. Shortly thereafter I got Modern Warfare 2, and it was just as good as the first one, if not better. No, it was better. There, I said it. Modern Warfare 2 is the Call of Duty game that I've spent the most time on, and it will forever hold a special place in my heart. Slowly but surely I began acquiring the other Call of Duty games in the series, such as World at War and Black Ops, and I have fond memories of when I and my 12-year-old friends watched the Modern Warfare 3 reveal trailer together during our lunch break in school. We screamed a lot, and I'm sure everyone else in the corridor hated us. I got Modern Warfare 3 on release day and played it to my heart's content. The campaign might be my favorite of the series, with the best final mission ever, and the multiplayer was just as addictive as always. Black Ops 2 was the last Call of Duty I got, and I enjoyed the campaign a fair bit, but by this point, the multiplayer formula was starting to run dry for me. I was simply losing interest. When Ghosts came out, I didn't get it. The next few games in the series hardly interested me, and I moved on to bigger and, dare I say it, greater games. Then, on the 2nd of May this year, something happened. Infinite Warfare was revealed to the public, and the public hated it. Believe me, I was in that crowd. I thought Infinity Ward had gone too far. We were going into space? We were fighting robot people? We were using laser weaponry? Yeah, I was confused. However, as time went on, my confusion led to curiosity, and then to interest. In a way, I began to sympathize with the developers of Infinite Warfare. They were probably so excited and proud of what they had created, and it was absolutely ripped to shreds even before it was even released. I think a turning point for me was when the game was showcased on Sony's 2016 E3 conference. I was at a friend's place watching the thing in the middle of the night, freaking out about Resident Evil 7, Death Stranding, and, Crash, I suppose. Along came Infinite Warfare that showcased a crazy freaking space battle that actually captivated me quite a bit. I thought, god damn, now I want to play that. The story trailer that was released also fueled the fire, and I knew I had to get the game. So, when Black Friday rolled around, I decided to stay at home in my comfy chair and order the game online. I'm a sucker for physical copies of games, as you can see, so I knew that I had to get this game as well. There it was, in my hands. So let's open it. Alright, the first thing I see is an ad for the Season Pass. Fuck you! As the game started, I was quite excited. Was the game gonna be as bad as everyone was saying it was? Had Infinity Ward gone too far? Had they blown it? Or would I be pleasantly surprised? The game opens up with an intro cinematic detailing the central conflict of the story, and the fact that humanity has, sort of mastered space travel. The Settlement Defense Front, or SETDEF, or SDF for short, are a faction who operate on Mars, and who have completely taken control of the planet through violence. Basically, they are crazed xenophobes who want to kill all Earth people. Our first mission begins on the frosty moon of Europa, close to Jupiter. 3 dudes who call themselves SCAR-1 are about to intercept some SDF dudes who are attacking an important weapons facility. Standard stuff, I suppose. We jump out of the spaceship and make our way to the surface. After a bit of fighting and discovering a sweet minigun, we deal with these giant killer robots in style. Only things don't really go as planned when Admiral Salen Koch shows up, played by Kit Harington! That's correct, Kit Harington from Game of Thrones and, Silent Hill Revelation fame joins Call of Duty this year around as the obligatory celebrity-voiced character. At first, it seems as if Koch is a nice enough guy until he shoots one of his own. Something caring makes you weak. Then it leaves the player to die, which effectively ends the opening mission. It turns out that the first mission was all a playback of a video from the incident, as Admiral Rains and our protagonist and hero, Lieutenant Nick Reyes, are watching it. They both get into a heated discussion about what to do about the deaths of the soldiers you were just playing as, and the Admiral urges Reyes to stay cool and wait, as they'll engage the SDF later or something. Reyes leaves and catches up with his sister-in-arms Nora Salter, who is, by all intents and purposes, a total badass. The two take the scenic route, and we see an impressive display of how armies of the future get their soldiers pumped for war. I won't lie, this is just awesome. We are swiftly introduced to E3N, or Ethan, our robot sidekick who is just a delight.
Thoroughly, man. Born to kill.
Look like you can kick some serious ass.
Well, now you're just making me blush, sir.
Out of nowhere, the SDF interrupt the pleasantries and shoot down the aircraft carrying our main characters. Looks like waiting just isn't for the Martians, eh? After seeing the city in all its glory, we quickly get to see it at its worst. I'll be honest here, I very much enjoyed this first proper mission. It's action-packed, intense, there are lots of amazing set pieces, it's an absolute blast to play through, and left me with a great first impression. The crew fight their way into the UNSA control tower and quickly put an end to the devastating attack on the city. We capture this guy, who just has the most punchable face ever, and take him away. No doubt he's gonna play a part in the story later. After this, we exit the tower and enter our very own personal aircraft and go into space! Here we are introduced to the aerial combat of the campaign, which was a sudden change of pace for me the first time around, but welcome nonetheless. It was a nice breather after all the running and gunning, and a welcome addition to the series. After dealing with some SDF forces in the area, we are finally allowed to board our ship, the Retribution, and are informed that the commander of the ship has passed away, making Reyes the new commander. I just love the look on his face here. He looks terrified. We're also introduced to Gator, a lieutenant on the ship who quickly befriends Reyes and Salter, and an all-around stand-up guy, and to some other minor characters. This is where the plot finally slows down for a moment, and we're allowed to walk around in our ship, which acts as the game's hub world between missions. You're allowed to walk around in your cabin, in your quarters, listen to audio logs from some of your crew, and read up on everyone. Have optional dialogue with people, and so much more. It's actually really cool, and the small space has a lot of personality in it. You can also go around harassing your coworkers. It's funny. Soon enough, the Retribution travels through hyperspace and makes its way over to the moon, to regain a cargo port from the bad guys. One detail I really like with this is that the technology of space travel has not been perfected yet. The ship still suffers a lot of damage every time you travel. We are introduced to this guy, Omar, who is a little bit of a racist towards robots, especially Ethan. We get some amusing banter between the two, where Omar constantly shuts Ethan down in everything he does.
But deserving attempted humor, sir.
Don't call me sir, I work for a living.
Terminals due north, Staff Sergeant. I don't need coordinates from you, Ethan.
Come on, man. Don't hurt my brother Ethan. We land on the moon in the most bombastic way possible, and slowly but surely push the SDF forces out of the port. The fight is then taken out into space again, and we get our first taste of on-foot space combat. It's refreshing, and I like it. Due to the low gravity, it's almost like being underwater, and it provides some interesting results. We enter one of the SDF's battleships and blow it up. We're then back at the Retribution for briefing. Kit Harington shows up again, offering a somewhat cliched speech about how Earth people are weak for caring about other people, and that victory for them must be achieved no matter the cost. There's actually a somewhat interesting dynamic going on between Admiral Koch and Reyes throughout the game, if you pay attention. Reyes is fixated on having every single one of his men return home safely after the war, while Koch is obsessed with achieving victory in a blaze of glory, placing heavy emphasis on the need to stay strong and die for the cause. In other words, he could not give two shits about his men. He only has eyes on the prize. This is further emphasized with his memorable motto, "Death is no disgrace," which is a fantastic line. After the moon mission, we're set free to do as we please. We can either continue the story, or we can do some optional side missions to better our equipment, get access to new weapons and so on, as displayed on the galaxy map here. It actually reminds me a lot of Mass Effect. I truly welcome side missions in this campaign, but the only downside I can find with it is that if one decides to skip them, you end up with a significantly shorter campaign experience. What I will say is that they are a whole lot of fun, just with a little less story sprinkled about in them. Some missions allow you to go on stealth missions, some let you partake in more dogfighting in space, and so on. I still highly recommend them since they are quite entertaining. With that out of the way, let's continue with the story. Next up, Retribution needs to hit one of Setdef's fueling stations on the Saturn moon Titan. We follow our bridge officer Boats to the armory where we have a chat with Omar. Omar's father used to work on Titan before Setdef took over, so he clearly has beef to settle with them. We get some genuinely charming character moments together with the two, and character development, since Omar has started warming up to Ethan and personally wants him with them on the mission. This is further shown when the squad is about to land on Titan, when he finally accepts Ethan as a part of the team.
He's one of us! Ethan! What's the Navy's official policy for a gunfight? Send in the Marines! As for you, Captain! You alright, Kashima?
Oh, a little dizzy, Sarge.
The crew lands on Titan and stealths their way into the base to create a good landing zone for everyone else. As always, Call of Duty delivers with their stealth mission, making a tense and satisfying experience. We get some help from one of our own gigantic killer robots and take down one of Setdef's killer robots. There are lots of robots over here. The squad makes a break for it and gets some time to breathe, before Koch shows up again and tells Retribution to surrender so they can be swiftly executed. And we're of course having none of that. Reyes and Ethan instead hop into their Jackal, that's what our little ships of death are called, and fight off the enemy forces before detonating the station and destroying one very important tower and getting out of there. Only, things don't really go as planned. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the Olympus Mons, which is the SDF's giant primary battleship, shows up and disables Captain Reyes' Jackal. And this, my friends, is where the campaign finally won me over for good. Reyes tries his best to still make it to the Retribution, but he fails. Ethan takes it upon himself to eject the two, and the Retribution has no other option but to warp out of Dodge to not risk going under. Salter assures Reyes that they will find him and that they will not leave him behind. What they don't know is that the captain's suit took a hit in the Jackal, which means that his oxygen is slowly depleting. Ethan asks Reyes what to do, and the captain tells him to let go. But Ethan refuses. The two refuse to let go of each other, like true brothers in arms. And this scene was absolutely beautiful, and caught me very much off guard. I genuinely started to think that they were gonna kill off the main character, as silly as it may sound.
Sir Captain, my mission is yours.
Who says?
I'm hardware, sir, ultimately expendable.
No. You're my brother, Ethan.
You're talking robot, brother.
Affirmative.
Yes. Well, I am the handsome one, sir.
No doubt.
Luckily, the two are saved by Captain Maureen Ferron of the Tigris battleship, and the cutscene that follows might be my favorite in the whole game. Admiral Rains refused to let Salter and the others go back to get Nick due to the high risk involved, but Farron, who heard of the incident through Salter, decided to take matters into her own hands and rescue him. The character building in this one cutscene is on point. The character interactions are incredibly charming, and we really see that Reyes, Ethan, and Salter truly care for one another. And this is exactly what Call of Duty needs. Genuine bonds between characters through great storytelling. We get a quick briefing of what to do next by Rains before we're set loose again. I have to point out this one optional mission called Operation Decon. The mission opens up with some dogfighting, and you then get to follow the huge SDF ship with your Jackal, and it is thrilling, so much fun. Just wanted to say that. Next story mission picks up on Vesta 3, a mining colony on an asteroid. According to reports, the workers in the mine have failed to make contact for the last few hours. Something has obviously gone wrong, and the Retribution are sent to investigate. Should be easy, right? Like a walk in the park. Ethan doesn't join us for this mission, which is a shame, but at the least we have Omar with us. The crew board the asteroid, and we get some really creative set pieces based on the fact that it's an asteroid. For example, you have to keep track of the temperatures since you're very close to the sun. We also get this hilariously awkward scene with Kashima, one of the guys on the team.
Fine. Gotta look out for each other, right? Speaking of which, your XO, is she, available?
You know what? I think she is.
That's good to know.
Gotta look out for each other, right?
Talk, Captain.
But you know, I'm not complaining. It gives depth to the characters. Suddenly, Salter gets attacked by one of the worker bots who all start attacking the squad. The enemy has hacked them and made them go haywire. It's like something straight out of a horror game. This is great since we have a new enemy to fight now. Machines we created ourselves. Fortunately, we find the mining workers alive and well and fight our way back to the dropship. Only, not everyone is getting out of there alive. One of the soldiers get hit, and Omar heroically attempts to save the man, but he's too late. The two both perish when the dropship has to pull out. So, Omar's dead, and that really sucks. The cutscene that follows is surprisingly emotional and well acted by everyone involved. Back at the Retribution, things aren't looking better. The Tigress and everyone on board has fallen, including Captain Farron. Koch contacts the ship again, and again tells the Earth people how they're weak and will be destroyed and yada yada yada. That's basically all Admiral Koch's character is. It's a huge shame as well, since the character had great potential. Perhaps we could see things from his perspective, understand why he's doing what he's doing, offered some form of sympathy for him. To me, the motivations of the SDF were never really clearly defined. I know that they wanted to wipe out everything Earthborn from the world, but why? I'm also somewhat iffy on Kit Harington's performance. There's something about the way he performs his lines that make him seem kind of off, I suppose. I don't know who to blame, Kit or the director. I mean, he's fantastic in Game of Thrones, and not so great in, say, Silent Hill.
You're kind of funny, Heather. You're pretty fucked up, but I don't know, I think you're goofy fun inside.
So what I think is the case is that Kit is one of those actors who can do an outstanding job with the right director. With the wrong director, things can go south really quick. That's not to say his performance is terrible or anything, just unremarkable, I suppose.
Captain Reyes, there is no hope of victory. We will bury your brothers. We will hunt your sons. Death is no disgrace.
Reyes decides that they've had enough, and decides to go back to Earth to lure Setdef there so they can take them out, and that's what they do. Remember that punchable guy from the beginning of the game? Yeah, well, he escaped, and we'll go through the ends of the Earth to hunt him down. If only he wasn't so slippery. We finally managed to catch up to him at the top of a church, and wouldn't you know it, he beats Reyes to the ground before delivering his evil maniacal monologue. I mean, it works, you start hating the guy, but then he decides to sacrifice himself for the cause for some unexplained reason. Why not just kill Reyes first when you had the chance and then yourself? Anyways, the Setevs Olympus is finally able to enter Earth's atmosphere, and the first thing they do is nuke the building containing Admiral Rains immediately. Rains too has now passed away. The Retribution arrive and fight their way on board the Olympus through some more radical antics. By hacking one of the Setevs robots, we subdue Admiral Koch before going in and finally seeing him in person once more. Now, Koch's screen time in this campaign has been very limited. Most of the time we've seen him, it's been over intercom or on screens. Very rarely do we see him in person. So up to this point, Koch has been a fairly underwhelming main villain. Let's see how the game treats him here.
You lack what it takes to win this war. I had what it took to beat you, Koch. Killing me isn't winning. I killed your admiral. Your iron shield is down. Death is no disgrace. Captain has the Khan.
What? That's it? That's his final speech? What? This guy, a minor character, got a cooler final monologue than the main villain. All Koch got was some insane ramblings reiterating what we already know about him, and that he hates weakness and blah blah, and then it just falls over. Is he even dead? Apparently you have the choice to stab him here, which is a secret, but I didn't know that, so I didn't do it. Did he even die? That kinda sucked. He should have had a final speech, something great, something truly memorable. But all we got was like 3-4 lines of dialogue and then he just falls over. Such a shame. Well, anyways, with that disappointment dealt with, Retribution takes control of the Olympus and set course for the SDF's main base on Mars. They start firing on the enemy fleet, and it is spectacular. But the crew are soon forced to evacuate out of the battleship due to the heavy resistance, and take the battle into the air, or space. Then, of course, something goes wrong again. The Retribution suffers great damage, and begins careening towards Mars, and then the Olympus collides with it. Everyone goes down. By this point, I was at the edge of my seat. I was genuinely caring about several of the characters, such as Reyes, Salter, Ethan, and Gator. I really didn't want any of them to die too. Reyes wakes up in his crashed Jackal on Mars, and it is in terrible shape. This section gave me massive flashbacks to the final mission of Modern Warfare 2, by the way. Soon enough, we find the wreckage of the Retribution, and Kashima tragically passes away before help could get on the way. He never did get his chance with Salter. Nick reunites with his crew, and some are quite unhappy with how he handled the situation. However, there's no time for chatter as Ethan arrives with some Olympus bots that he hacked. Time to hit Setev with all they have. Everyone's there, including Gator, Reyes, Salter, and pretty much every single minor character in the game gets something to do here. It very much feels like a suicide mission, and for some of them, it really is. Gator unfortunately also bites the dust, and that really sucks, since he was one of my favorites, and so does your armory guy Griff. Luckily, the rest of the men make their way into the Mars base, and while some stay back and fight on Mars, several key characters make their way up to the top. Salter, Reyes, and Commander McCallum split off from the rest, and McCallum dies heroically as well. If the point hasn't been made clear yet, here it is. Reyes, from the very beginning of the game, was fixated on making sure each and every one of his men made it home safe. But again and again, this fixation leads to remorse, guilt, and disappointment, as his men die around him left and right. It's a stark contrast from Koch, who had no value for human life, and simply saw victory as the only option. When everyone regroups on the base, Reyes makes it clear what he's planning on doing. He wants to finish the fight on his own, while everyone else gets away safely. He knows he's probably not going to make it back, but he's willing to take the shot. Why he wants to, I'm not perfectly certain of, but I think it's to show that he simply wants to risk his life for the well-being of his remaining men, while also making up for the sacrifices that had to be made in the war. At least, that's why I think he decides to go alone. Salter, of course, rejects the idea at first, but ultimately gives in. Now, it's just Reyes and Ethan on the comm. We get one final, satisfying level where Ethan helps you out by providing some creative makeshift covers for you as you make your way over to the control room. When you finally reach it, Ethan tells you to hack into him so that you can destroy the base's core, and when you're finally there, Ethan hits you with a bombshell. There's no other option than for him to self-destruct, so that the core blows up and sets off a chain reaction. And so, Ethan goes down as well. Finally, it's time. Reyes has the room locked in and orders Salter to fire on his position, effectively sacrificing himself for the mission, and she reluctantly complies. Reyes is sucked into space, and for a moment it seems like he's gonna make it, but he doesn't. In his mind, he has fulfilled his purpose and duty, and can finally rest. He floats away into space as the game comes to a close with the devastating revelation that all of the characters you grew to know and love throughout the game pretty much died. Only 4 survived. And yet, the mission was a success. In the game's final cutscene, we see a bittersweet yet heartwarming moment of Salter standing at the wall of names of everyone who lost their lives in the war, and we see her giving her final salute to her fallen friend as a broadcast of Retribution's victory can be heard in the background. It's all very powerful, and harkens back to the beginning of the game. She stands up and leaves as the game comes to an end. In the credits, we get one very commendable addition to everything. We get to hear the recordings of several characters' final goodbyes, that are recorded and sent to the families of soldiers in case they pass away in the wars they fight in. From characters like Ethan and Omar to even minor characters like McCallum and Griff, it's actually quite heartbreaking. They really do pull on your heartstrings with these messages. I can't imagine how it must be like for actual soldiers to have to sit down and write or record these things. It must be tough. The credits do go on for quite some time, but we get a nice final shot of the camera panning from Mars all the way down to Earth, which almost seems to signify peace between the two planets. And then, it's the end. I will admit, when I first finished the game, I was disappointed. I felt that the ending was way too abrupt, and that I wanted to see more of how the world was affected by Retribution's victory. I refused to believe that Koch died by gently falling to the ground, and wondered where he was. When I first finished the game, I simply thought that the Marines took him into custody, but nope, apparently he did indeed die. Yep, I was disappointed. However, after letting it sit for a while, I am ultimately satisfied with the experience that the campaign offered me. I suppose the abrupt ending is there to leave it up to the player to decide what happens next in the world. Easily the best and most interesting Call of Duty campaign in years, and it's a shame that not too many people will get to experience it due to the negative reaction and reception to the game's trailers. So, what more is there to talk about with the game? How about the soundtrack? I'm a big fan of the main menu theme. I also really enjoy the track that plays when Ethan and Reyes are suffocating above Mars. It really helps set the mood. The soundtrack helps enhance the mood of many scenes in the game, and it does its job quite well. The gameplay feels excellent, satisfying, and is just the right difficulty, at least for me. I did see some quite noticeable pop-in once or twice, which wasn't game-breaking, but definitely took me out of the experience for a second or two. Other than that, the game looks fantastic, with bright colors and amazing cutscenes, although the transition from cutscenes to in-game models is a bit jarring at times. The game had some exciting new additions to the series that very much won me over, and I hope we get to see more of them, and more refined experiences with them in future installments. Lastly, I really want more out of the universe Infinity Ward created with this game, so we can fully flesh out the different factions that were present here. I feel as though a lot of the elements of the story had to be cut or rushed through since we only get one game to establish this place, but I would definitely like to see more from this galaxy, and hopefully more from Salter, who is without a doubt my favorite character in the game, next to Ethan. I definitely have to commend Infinity Ward for creating one pretty great experience that I thoroughly enjoyed. The writing at certain points were flawless, and I got a real kick out of the great banter between characters. There was so much personality to speak of. Other areas could do a bit of work, but the good definitely outweighs the bad in this story. And that's about it. Now, would I recommend this campaign to people? The game took me around 9 hours to complete, and that was including every side mission. If you can find the game on sale someday, I would definitely tell you to go for it. The game would also be perfect to rent for a day or two, for a weekend romp or something like that, because believe me, there are some worthwhile things to experience with this campaign. I'm certainly very happy that I played it, and I would definitely do it again. I can't believe you watched the entire video. Thanks a lot for watching. This is the first time I've done a video like this, and I would definitely like to do more on other games in the future. Perhaps on some more obscure games too, eh? Again, thanks for watching everyone. Stay awesome. Goodbye. Offering a somewhat cliched speech about how eat people, are you kidding me?